Welcome back to Hacking the Tesla Safety Score. Since my car has been in the body shop since mid-November and it's now late January, I figured I can't keep my fans waiting for more exciting content. The fans demand new videos. Am I right?
Yeah!
I think I heard someone out there. Thanks for that. For this video, I think we should take a look at the safety score numbers because, well, literally nobody asked for it, and I'm feeling a little like Steve Jobs. I know you don't know what you want, so I'll tell you what you want, and then you'll thank me for changing the world. I'm sure once the word gets out, this video will go viral. I'm expecting tens and tens of views, maybe even a like or two. Speaking of likes, please do me a favor and go back to the other videos in the series and smash that like button. It takes a lot of work to make these videos, and I have no way of knowing what people enjoy, unless you let me know. Also, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on the new and exciting content like this. Without further ado, let's dig into the safety score numbers. If you recall, in the hacking introduction video, I provided a link to Tesla's safety score description, and that's where we'll start. The URL is in the description. There are 5 safety factors, and the hacking video covers correcting the 3 most problematic factors. I'm not going to discuss autopilot disengagements and forward collision warnings other than to say, make sure collision warnings are set to the least sensitive setting value in the car's settings. Just below the 5 factors, we find determining your safety score. We breezed over the math in the introduction video because this really looks like no fun. But guess what? The math is really fun. And who doesn't love math?
Math sucks.
Oh, I see a hand out there. Don't worry, stick with me, and I promise you don't need to do any math, and you'll love the math when we're done. The numbers will make things interesting. I've also published a worksheet, and the link is in the description. If you open that up now, you can play around with the numbers as we move forward. Tesla's safety score is based off this predicted collision frequency number. It's the PFC for short. This PFC is the product of a base number scaled by each safety factor's value. The safety factor values are calculated from a magic base value raised to the power of each factor's daily grade. Tesla claims each factor's base number was arrived at after modeling billions of miles of driver data. The safety score is derived from another magic number of 115.382324, which is reduced by another magic number value of 22.526504, scaled by the PFC. A bunch of crazy numbers, a bunch of crazy math, and we're going to make it make sense. One thing to note is down below, which addresses when a car is equipped with Autopilot Hardware 2.0. This would be a Model S or Model X, and I don't think this is meant for FSD, but I believe it's for the insurance products, which also use the safety score metrics. I've included these values for Autopilot hardware before version 2.5, but that's not really applicable to this discussion. It's just an interesting comparison point when we look at the numbers. Here are the equations used to calculate a safety score. You can see the PFC is the result of a default PFC, highlighted in blue, multiplied by each safety factor's base value in gold, raised to the power of the factor's grade in green. With the PFC calculated, it's used in the equation for the safety score. And I'm sorry, I need to indicate the first equation is for Autopilot 2.5 plus, and the second equation is used for Autopilot 2.0. The other thing to remember is order of operations, and I'll just add parentheses to show that 22.526504 gets scaled by the PFC before being used to subtract from the starting score of 115.382324. I'm going to pull up 2 spreadsheets to demonstrate what's going on. The sheet on the left will be published for you to use, and the link is in the description. The sheet on the right displays all the calculations. When using the safety score worksheet, the sheet on the left, you'll enter the daily safety factor grades in the green cells. These are the exponents in the PFC calculations. Here, our grades are all 0, and our score is a perfect 100. The max grade values from the app are provided for reference. The app grade will never exceed these values. Let's move to the sheet to the right. This sheet copies the values from the grades entered in the green cells from the sheet on the left. The golden cells to the left of the green cells contain the safety factor base values. The blue-colored cell is the default PFC value. You may be curious why this is the default PFC value, and that's similar to when you take a test in school. Just like the teacher giving you a perfect grade of 100 to start, and then making deductions when you answer incorrect, this value will produce a 100% grade when you've got 0 deductions. The peach-colored cells are the result of raising a base to its grade. There's a couple of things to note about raising a base to a factor's score. First is any number raised to the power of 0 is 1. So a safety factor grade of 0 results in a PFC multiplier of 1 for that safety factor. When all PFC safety factor multipliers are 1, the PFC equals the default PFC value. The other thing to know about exponents is that an exponent greater than 1 produces a value larger than its base, and an exponent less than 1 produces a smaller value. If you remember, squaring a number is raising it to the power of 2, while the square root of a number is raising it to the power of 1/2. Looking at the safety score equation, we see that 22.526504 gets scaled by the PFC before being subtracted from the starting grade, and with an ideal PFC value of 0.682854, we end up subtracting 15.382313, which produces a grade of 100%. When a PFC is greater than the ideal value, a larger deduction is made from the starting grade, which results in a lower safety score. So looking at these numbers, a couple things stand out to me. First, we want our PFC multipliers for each of the safety factors to be as close to 1 as possible. Second, the base values for the safety factors have a pretty big range. Disengagements have a base greater than 1.3. Hard braking has a value close to 1.13, and the remaining values are within 1 to 2 100ths of 1. Unsafe following is only 14 10,000ths more than 1. So there's a wide variety there. The third interesting observation is the max values for each safety factor. Again, there's a wide range from 1 to 101. And just to note, I believe forward collision warnings 101.9 is actually 10.19, and we'll take a look at that later. For now, the unsafe follow max of 60 is almost 4 times greater than an aggressive turn, which is more than double the max for hard braking. So what does this mean for our safety score? Let's look at how the safety factor's base value and max value impact our PFC. Let's start by entering the max values into the sheet on the left. Starting with forward collision warnings, and a grade of 101.9 produces a safety score grade of 48.72. And that sounds pretty outrageous, even though that's a value that's based on an average for 1,000 miles. If we change to 10.19, the grade is a much higher 97.57. Hard braking at 7.4% results in a score of 78.05%. Aggressive turning at 17.1% is a score of 93.93%. Unsafe following at 60% yields a score of 98.61%. And forced disengagements of 1 is a 5-point deduction for 95.11%. If we graph these deductions over each factor's graded range, it's easy to see what I previously described. This first graph shows each safety factor's grade over 10 steps from 0 to the factor's max value. In this first graph, we've got forward collision warnings ranging from 0 to 101.9. We can see forced disengagements in light blue is a one-shot 5-point deduction. Unsafe follow in purple is linear and only does minor damage. Aggressive turning in green curves slightly and produces more damage than unsafe follow. Hard braking follows an early exponential curve, bending more at the upper end. And forward collision warnings show a major impact, and the exponential bend is clear. This is the same information, but here we limit forward collision to a max value of 10.19. In this graph, forward collision very closely mirrors unsafe follow and produces only a slightly bigger deduction. It's easy to see hard braking impacts the grade more than all others. Looking at where hard braking is at the 3 tick on the x-axis, that's 30% of the 7.4 max grade, which would be 2.2% in the app. And we see a 5% deduction here. What this shows is the safety factor score impacts from hard braking is close to 2 times your hard braking grade. So a 5% hard braking grade would be at least a grade of 90%. And because this isn't a linear curve, it would actually be more. If we plug 5% into the worksheet, we see it's a grade of 87%. For fun, let's look at how the base values of the PFC formula affect the grade. These are the gold numbers in that formula. This time we'll ignore the max values for each safety grade and assume each factor has a max value of 100%. With these exponent values being equal, the only thing different will be the base values of the formula. This is kind of neat, and we see why heartbreaking needs to have a graded range of 0 to 7.4%. A heartbreaking grade of 17% would produce a safety score of 0. Another interesting thing to see is that unsafe following, even with the range increased from 60 to 100%, the impact of the safety score is still only 2%. Let's go back to the worksheet and see what happens when all safety factors have their max penalties. If we fill in all grades with their max value and look at the PFC multipliers, we see heartbreaking is the largest multiplier at 2.4. Next is aggressive turning, a full point lower at 1.39. The remaining values are close to 1, with unsafe following being only 9/100ths greater than 1. These grades result in the worst PFC at 3.84556, which is nearly 6 times greater than the ideal PFC. What numbers, huh? This results in our starting safety score of 115 being reduced by nearly 87 points. And that's with a forward collision grade of 10.19, not 101.9. I encourage everyone to play around with the grades in the spreadsheet to better understand how each grade impacts your score. Unless I need to bump a grade back up 1 or 1.5 points, it looks like unsafe following is something you can just ignore. Heartbreaking and aggressive turning are the bigger fish to fry. With our new information, let's take a look at some values from the app and see how things really work. We understand a 60% unsafe follow should have a minor impact on the daily grade. Here, I've got an unsafe follow score of 58.4%, and the app shows a daily grade of 99%. That looks great. If we put 58.4% into the worksheet and give it a minute to calculate, this brings up a point I've mentioned a few times in the hacking video, and to folks who can't understand why they haven't been invited to the FSD beta, even if the app shows a safety score of 98%. And that's because, well, Elon doesn't like them. Just kidding. It's because internally, the app has a value that's likely more precise than what is displayed. The app displays rounded integer values, so even with the bad 58.4% grade, the score is calculated at 98.65. And after rounding, that's a value of 99. After using my hacking methods to get the grade down to 17.2%, we see the daily score climbs to 99.61. And after rounding, that matches the app's displayed value of 100%. I've got one more example with aggressive turning, and you can see the app, I have a grade of 11.5%, which produced a safety score of 96%. If I plug that number into the spreadsheet, the calculated value is 96.15, which does match when rounded. So the numbers do work out. With that, I'll come back to the forward collision max value of 101.9, which I previously mentioned sounds extremely high. I suspect this is off by a factor of 10, which would mean the max value is more like 10.19. If anybody's ever had a value that's greater than 11, please let me know and share a screenshot because I'd like to see that. The only thing I have left for you is a plea to have you like and subscribe and ring the bell so that you get notifications when new videos are released. I hope you found this video informative. I did enjoy making it, and I hope to have my car back soon, at which point I'll be able to make some more videos. And I'll see you then.